Okay, today I'm going to show you about Google Slides. I am the virtual teacher this year for our third grade, and I have been using Google Slides in pretty much a weekly basis, sometimes on a daily basis for my kids. So if you go to the Google homepage and then go to the waffle, you can find Google Slides. You can also type in like slides.google, or I guess docs.google.com/presentation. And then they have a bunch of different templates that you can choose from, or you can create your own. Um, it also shows you all of the recent ones that you've used. So these are some of the ones that I've created or assigned in Google Classroom. You can see that my students' names are on there, and the different things that I've created. So basically, this is a presentation um, tool. Like you can create a presentation. And so sometimes I do create the presentations for my classroom. Um, let me go back to the homepage and I can show you some examples. Um, each week, I have an agenda for my kids that kind of shows the skills that we're going to work through. So this is an example of the weekly agenda that I post to Google Classroom just so they can have an idea of what they're going to do. I have some links on here that will take them to different practice tools. So that I post on Google Classroom each week, just a picture of this, or just a view file of this so they can actually edit it, but they can see what's going to go on throughout the week. I also have, for my particular lessons, a lot of times when we log on to Google Meet, I will share my screen and show my kids kind of like what they're going to be doing. So this is an example of one of the things that I share my screen and show as they're logging into Google Meet. So they have to complete a beginning of the day check-in every morning. I show them what they need. I kind of show them the rules of what they need to be doing. I don't make them mute their mic until I start teaching. And then this is typically a countdown for when I'm going to start. And then this is what I use as I'm going through my teaching. And then most of the time I assign them something that's very similar that they can drag and drop different things, or they can type in things. So just a quick overview of how I create my templates, or I can create my slides. A lot of the times, like when I made this one, I actually made this in PowerPoint and then open it into Google Slides as a picture for my background because I wanted to use my fun fonts and I didn't want my kids to be able to edit it. So like on this one, I wanted my kids to be able to see the learning targets, but I did not want them to be able to edit them. So that's actually made from PowerPoint. If you look at this one I just created a template and we actually went through this during class. During my Google Meet, my kids had this pulled up on a screen and then the Google Meet pulled up on a tab. And so I would tell them, okay, do slide 2 and let me see. And I could go through the assignment on Google Classroom and see as they were typing in their answers. And then we went on to slide 3. And then, so it kind of made it a little bit more interactive, but they were also practicing at the same time. So it wasn't just, here's a problem, do it, let's go over it. It was, they could do the work on here. And some of them moved ahead, and then some of them I could kind of pinpoint, hey, this is where you're making your mistake or something like that. So when I'm creating a presentation in Google Slides, I start with my theme and decide, what I want it to look like. My students are in third grade, so I kind of try to stick to neutral colors and something that's easy to read. This is one that I like a lot. I have added my own fonts or not my own, but I've added more fonts into Google just so I could have, a couple of more fun fonts. Okay, so for this presentation, I'm just going to create it as if I was doing this in my math lesson. So I would do, math practice, and then maybe title it September. Tomorrow is the 28th, 2020. So then that's my title. I could also come up here and whatever I've titled my first slide, that will automatically go in there. If I wanted something different, then you could change it. I'll have emojis on all of my activities so that they know what day each thing is. And Monday is always red, so let me find the red square. I don't know why it's not one of my most recent ones. And so then I put that at the beginning, and so they know that anything with a red square is for Monday, and they'll see that in Google Classroom, and it just kind of helps streamline everything. So then you come up here and you click New Slide. You can, decide which type of slide that you want. If I'm doing this as a practice for them to do, I'll oftentimes do the 2 slides like this and say add 496 plus 247. And then over here, I put type your answer here. So I always make it bigger so that, I can see it, they can see it. I don't know. I just want it to be aesthetically pleasing. And you can update it or change it however you want to. I like to have it in the center. And also, if I'm going to capitalize all those other letters, I'm going to capitalize that one. Okay, so they will type their answer here. And I want it to be the same font. So I'm going to put over here, insert picture of your work here. And my students, at the beginning of the school year, I taught them how to insert a picture. So they know that they have to do their work either on their marker board at home or on a piece of paper. And so what they'll do is they'll come up here to insert image and from camera, and I'm not going to click it because it will show me, but they click that and they hold their paper up to the camera and insert the image there. And that took a couple days for them to be able to understand how to do that, but now they do it with no problem. So, a lot of times once I get my first slide, how I want my kids to be able to work on it, I'll just right click and click duplicate slide and then change the math problem. Sometimes, let's do 631 plus 257, and then they'll do the same exact thing. So you can create this however you want. Another thing that I like to do with Google Slides is in Google Classroom. So you can create as many slides as you want in the template that you want, however you want to do it. If you're using this as a presentation tool, then you can also go in and change the animation. You can add word art, you can add charts, you can basically do whatever. Here's the animation. So if I wanted the problem to pop in first and then those 2 boxes, then I could do that as well. And I think one other thing I'm going to do is outline this box just so my kids know right here is where you need your work, right here is where you need your your picture of your box, of your work. I can't talk. So I'm not going to go into more detail on that because you can add a text box, you can add different images, you can add different shapes for whatever you wanted to do. If I wanted to, make a fancy plus sign on there, then I could do that and I can edit it however I wanted to. You can insert pictures from your computer or from search the web on Google. So if you're like at the beginning of the year, I did an all about me slide and students had to tell me about themselves. So if they like football, then they could insert the football and they would just click it and click insert and it would go over there. Or they could drag and drop it like I did on that one. And then they can resize it. So one of the main reasons that I like slides is for the interaction tool, not necessarily the presentation tool, because I feel like there are so many different presentation tools out there for us to use as teachers. Slides does that, but I like the interaction that it allows my kids to have. So I want to show you a couple of things that I do with slides in Google Classroom. So before I do that, here are a couple of more examples. This week in science, we're talking about force and motion. And so I have created this force in motion slide, and I will assign them each day. So like on Monday, they're going to talk about, they're going to watch a little video on force in motion, and then they will fill out the KWL chart. And I just go through and put type here, and they know to double click it so that the type here is highlighted. That erases that once they start writing their answers. And then same thing here, like there's a little reading passage, they have to answer questions. One problem that I realized my kids were having is this is really small. You can't be in presentation mode when you are typing on there. So I've had to teach my kids how to go in and zoom in. I tell them typically to do 100%, and they can just scroll up and down. So, and then I showed you the math one that we did in class. One of the things that I've loved about slides is I'm going to create an assignment, and this is actually inside my Google Classroom. So I guess I can just add that math practice. It also automatically saves to your Google Drive as you're doing it. So like I didn't have to click save or anything. Then you can click, if you have made a presentation and you don't want the students to be able to edit it, then you can just click students can edit file. If you want everybody to be able to edit the same file, then you just click student edit file. But I want to make a copy for each student, and that's what I did in my Google Meet, is made a copy for each student, and then each student was able to pull it up, and I was able to look at it as they were doing it. One really cool thing about Google Classroom, this is more Google Classroom than Google Slides, but I mainly use their rubric when I do Google Slides, is this rubric feature that Google Classroom has. You can create a new rubric, you can reuse a rubric that you've already used, or you can import from Sheets. And so typically I either create my own or reuse. And so just for the sake of this video, I'm going to reuse a rubric that I've used before. And what I do is, let's see if I have a math one. So on this rubric, I did 2 different criteria things. They had several problems that they had to do. So if they got all the problems correct, they got 100 points. 2 out of the 3 were 67 points. This is like an exit slip Google slide that I did. One problem was a 33, and if they didn't get any, they got 0. And so I kind of put comments on there. If they made a 100, awesome job. If they made a 67, even though 67 is not a great job, they only missed one problem, so I still put good job. And then I put the same thing for if they've missed 2 or if they missed all of them, that they were going to be looking for a note from me, and I spelled that wrong. So I need to go back and edit that. But they also had to attach their work. So I also created a rubric for that. So they got 50 points for attaching their work, 25 for no work attached, and 0 for 25 for some of the work attached, and 0 for none of the work attached. Because what I was finding is that some kids would attach work for one problem and not for all of it. So I went in and added that. Then the cool thing about this, go back, is when you have your, okay, my screen's frozen. Okay. The cool thing about this is once you have your assignment and your rubric attached, then when you open the Google assignment or the Google Classroom assignment, you click View Assignment, and you can see all of your kids. And so then you can go in and say this is the student's assignment. You can quickly come over here, and I can see this kid didn't do anything. This is our test student account, so it's typically not done unless I go in and test it. But you can come over here and click, okay, he got a 100 because he did all of it good, or he got 0. And so all I have to do is click this, and then those comments that I attached to that rubric and everything immediately go to the student when I hit return. So I love Google Slides, but I also love the rubric feature within Google Classroom. And then if you look at this Google slide, this is one that we created as a drag and drop. So they had to label the vowels and consonants, and then they had to split the syllable depending on the rule. And so that's another option for Google Slides is to be able to drag and drop. Sometimes I have the students have like their grammar, I'll have a sentence and they have to drag the circle to the noun or the rectangle to the pronoun or something like that. So drag and drop is another awesome thing that my kids have gotten used to in Google Slides. So that is Google Slides in a nutshell and how I use it in my classroom. Thank you very much.